Good morning, children. Sai Ram. Welcome to chapter 4 of history, that is, the Mughal Empire. Students, in the last chapter, we learned about Delhi Sultans. In this particular chapter, we are going to learn about the Mughal Empire, as in, from where did they come, their military campaigns, their relations with other rulers, mansabdars, so on and so forth. So let us begin with from where exactly the Mughals came. Children, in the Middle Ages, ruling a large territory of Indian subcontinent with a diversity of people and cultures was an extremely difficult task for any ruler. Quite in contrast to their predecessors, the Mughals created an empire. From the latter half of the 16th century, they expanded their kingdom from Agra and Delhi until the 17th century, and they controlled nearly all of the subcontinent. They imposed structures of administration and ideas of governance that outlasted their rule, leaving a political legacy that succeeding rulers of the subcontinent could not ignore. Look at this picture, students. Do you know what it is? Yes, it is the Red Fort. Today, the Prime Minister of India addresses the nation on Independence Day from the ramparts of the Red Fort in Delhi. But do you know, this Red Fort used to be the residence of Mughal emperors? Yes, that's true. Now the question arises, who were the Mughals? The Mughal era has a significant place in the history of India. The Mughals ruled from early 15th century to early 18th century, after which the power and control of Mughal emperors started diminishing. The Mughals were the descendants of Genghis Khan and Timur the Great and came from the present day Uzbekistan. The empire of Mughals extended over Afghanistan, Pakistan, India and China. The Mughal emperors were not just good warriors but also able administrators. They were tolerant of other beliefs and encouraged art and culture. It was because of this that they were able to rule for so long over a large empire. Children, the Mughals were descendants of two great lineages of rulers. From mother's side, they were descendants of Genghis Khan, and from father's side, they were successors of Taimur. The Mughals did not like to be called as Mughals or Mongols. This was because Genghis Khan's memory was associated with the massacre of innumerable people. It was also linked with the Uzbeks, their Mongol competitors. Children, look at this picture. This picture is from your history textbook, page number 46. This is a painting, a miniature painting. It is a painting of Timur, his descendants, and the Mughal emperors. Now, can you see the person sitting in between, in the center? He is Timur, and on his right is his son Miran Shah, who was the first Mughal emperor, Babur's great grandfather. And then is Abu Said, Babur's grandfather. Now to the left of Timur are Sultan Muhammad Mirza, who was Babur's great grandfather, and Umar Sheikh, Babur's father. The Mughal emperor Babur, Akbar, and Shah Jahan are the third, fourth, and fifth individuals on Timur's right and on his left. In the same order are Humayun, Jahangir, and Aurangzeb. Let us have a look at Mughal lineage. First came Babur, who ruled from 1526 to 1530 CE. After Babur came Humayun, who ruled from 1530 to 1540 CE. Now children, if you remember, in the last chapter we studied that after Humayun, for some period, Shesha Suri, he came to power. But after some years or after some time, Humayun was again able to regain his position, and he again came to power in 1555 to 1556 and ruled for one more year. Then came Akbar, who ruled from 1556 to 1605. After Akbar came Jahangir. He ruled from 1605 to 1627. After Jahangir came Shah Jahan, who ruled from 1627 to 1658. And Shah Jahan was followed by Aurangzeb, who ruled from 1658 to 1707. The last one was Bahadur Shah Zafar, about whom we will be learning in class 8th. Now let us look at the next topic, that is Mughal military campaigns. Now children, as discussed earlier, Babur was the first Mughal emperor. He succeeded to the throne of Fergana in 1494. So when he succeeded the throne, he was only 12 years of age. He was forced to leave his ancestral throne due to the invasion of another Mongol group, the Uzbeks. So he wandered, and after years of wandering, he seized Kabul in 1504. In 1526, he defeated the Sultan of Delhi, Ibrahim Lodi. So in the previous chapter, we have learned about Ibrahim Lodi, who was the last Sultan of Delhi. So he defeated him in the year 1526 at Panipat, and he captured Delhi and Agra. Children, look at this picture. This is picture of a table from your textbook, page number 48. It shows Mughal emperors and the major campaigns and events. Now let us have a look at it one by one. Now children, as we all know, Babur ruled from 1526 to 1530. He gained the throne after defeating Ibrahim Lodi in 1526. In 1527, he defeated Rana Sanga, Rajput rulers and allies at Kanauj. In 1528, he defeated the Rajputs and at Chanderi. He established control over Agra and Delhi before his death. Now let us move on to Humayun. Now Humayun ruled from 1530 to 1540 and for one more year from 1555 to 1556. Humayun divided his inheritance according to the will of his father. His brothers were each given a province. The ambitions of his brother Mirza Kamran weakened Humayun's cause against Afghan competitors. Sher Khan defeated Humayun at Chausa in the year 1539 and Kanauj in 1540, forcing him to flee to Iran. In Iran, Humayun received help from the Safavid Shah. He recaptured Delhi in 1555 but died the next year after an accident in this building. The next emperor, Akbar. Akbar ruled from 1556 to 1605. Akbar was 13 years of age when he became emperor. His reign can be divided into three periods: 1556 to 1570. Akbar became independent of the regent Bairam Khan and other members of his domestic staff. Military campaigns were launched against the Suris and the other Afghans, against the neighboring kingdoms of Malwa and Gondwana, and to suppress the revolt of his half-brother Mirza Hakim and the Uzbeks. So in 1568, the Sisodia capital of Chittor was seized, and in 1569, Ranthambore. In 1570 to 1585, he took military campaigns in Gujarat and were followed by the campaigns in the east in the Bihar, Bengal and Orissa. Now these campaigns were complicated by 1579 to 1580 revolt in the support of Mirza Hakim. Now the period 1585 to 1605, he expanded his empire. Campaigns were launched in the northwest. Kandahar was seized from the Safavids. Kashmir was annexed, as also Kabul. After the death of Mirza Hakim, campaigns in the Deccan started and Berar, Khandesh and parts of Ahmednagar were annexed. In the last years of his reign, Akbar was distracted by the rebellion of Prince Salim, the future Emperor Jahangir. Now we move on to the next emperor, that is Emperor Jahangir. So he ruled from 1605 to 1627. Military campaigns started by Akbar continued. Under his rule, the Sisodia rulers of Mewar, Amar Singh, accepted Mughal service. Less successful campaigns against the Sikhs, the Ahoms, and the Ahmednagar followed. Prince Khurram, the future Emperor Shah Jahan, rebelled in the last years of his reign. Shah Jahan, he ruled from 1627 to 1658. Mughal campaigns continued in the Deccan under Shah Jahan. The Afghan noble Khan Jahan Lodi rebelled and was defeated. Campaigns were launched against Ahmednagar. The Bundelas were defeated and the Orkha seized. In the northwest, the campaigns to seize Balkh from the Uzbeks was unsuccessful and the Kandahar was lost to the Safavids. In 1632, Ahmednagar was finally annexed and the Bijapur forces sued for peace. Next one is Aurangzeb, who ruled from 1658 to 1707. Now, in the northeast, the Ahoms were defeated in 1663 but rebelled again in the campaigns in the northwest against the Yusufzai, and the Sikhs were temporarily successful. Mughals' intervention in the successor and internal politics of the Rathore Rajputs of Marwar led to their rebellion. Campaigns against the Maratha chieftain Shivaji were initially successful, but Aurangzeb insulted Shivaji, who escaped from Agra, who declared himself as an independent king and resumed his campaigns against the Mughals. Now let us move on to the next topic, that is Mughal traditions of succession. So basically, how the Mughal rulers they divided their estate amongst their children. So the Mughals they basically did not believe in the rule of primogeniture. What do you understand by primogeniture? Primogeniture means that the eldest son in the family inherits the father's estate. So they did not believe in it. Rather, they followed the Mughal and the Timurid custom of copercenary inheritance. Now, what is copercenary? Copercenary inheritance means that the father's estate is divided amongst all the sons, but the ruler or the emperor remains only one. So, as I said, the Mughals did not believe in the rule of primogeniture, but they followed the Mughal and the Timurid custom of copercenary inheritance. So children, with this I end this session of chapter 4. Before we finish off with this, I would like to take a small recap on whatever we have done today. So children, today we started off the session with understanding who exactly were Mughals and what was the Mughal lineage. From the last 16th century, the Mughals expanded their kingdoms from Agra and Delhi. The Mughals were descendants of two great lineages of rulers. From their mother's sides, they were the descendants of Genghis Khan, who was the ruler of Mongol tribe, China and Central Asia. And from the father's side, they were the successors of Taimur, the ruler of Iran, Iraq and modern Turkey. So after this, we saw the Mughal lineage. We saw that Babur ruled from 1526 to 1530. After that, Humayun ruled from 1530 to 1540 and 1555 to 1556. Then came Akbar, who ruled from 1556 to 1605. He was followed by Jahangir 1605 to 1627. Then came Shah Jahan from 1627 to 1658, followed by Aurangzeb, who ruled from 1658 to 1707. After that, we also learned about Mughal traditions of succession, how the son inherited his father's estate. So in this we saw that the Mughals did not believe in the rule of primogeniture, like where the elder son inherits the property, his father's property, but rather they believed in the custom of coparcenary, which means that the property or the estate is divided amongst the son, though the emperor remains the same. So with this, today we learnt about the Mughal lineage, who were Mughals, Mughal military campaign and Mughal traditions of succession. With this, I end this session of Chapter 4 History, the Mughal Empire. See you in the part 2 of the same chapter. You are expected to read the chapter thoroughly till whatever we have done. Till then, goodbye and take care.